And I think we are live. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments down, or excuse me, the live chat. We're going to be doing a little bit of a geometry lesson here today. So get everybody in here, sound off. Let me know where you're watching from. We're going to close out this page. I want to bring it into this area over here so I can see all your guys' comments. You guys had some really good comments last live stream. This is going to be a relatively quick one, and we're doing it live so that I can basically just rattle this off, and you guys can see that I'm not, doing a lot of editing behind the scenes. I'm just gonna do it live. We're not gonna be able to cherry pick any numbers or anything like that. Let me know where you're listening from. We'll let people roll in here. We are, of course, out of the state of Ohio. Our senator just got tapped to be the next vice president of the United States, likely. Good guy, good balance to Trump. And speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and preface everything that we're going to be saying here today with a statement about my kind of political stance on Trump. Many of you who have been longtime viewers will know that I have not been a super duper Trump guy. However, this kind of happening is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist in any shape, manner, or form, but the more and more that I look at this, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up, and you guys should make your own judgment call on what they're telling you as far as truthfulness, why on earth they could be misleading people, et cetera, et cetera. That's on you to make a call on. I'm not going to tell you guys how to think. That said, I think that me being I don't want to say an opponent of Trump up to this point, but perhaps a person who's just kind of been standing there saying like, hey, we're ascribing a whole lot of things to this man that he is not. And while he may very well be the best candidate currently in the race, we should meet our expectations. That's all I've been saying up to this point. Somebody saying there's a slippery slope, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today, right? So I think that my position up to this point for the last several years puts me in a unique position among many of the people who are talking about this to perhaps bring some meter to the rabid pace of a lot of the things that have been put out. I have several content creators that I watch who I gotta say, man, they've really gone into the Kool-Aid on this one, but there are lots of things that don't add up, and I'm not saying that their perspective is less than mine. I'm just saying that, hey, maybe we ought to pump the brakes and cool down a little bit when we're examining these things. A lot of their analysis has been less than evidence-based. We'll just say that. So what I'm going to say here today is what I want to talk about is the director of the Secret Service saying that there was not somebody on the roof because it was too sloped, or that it had a slope and it was a safety concern. Okay. Quite frankly, if we want to, you can ascribe whatever you want to that position, but I'm going to take the shall we say, the conservative position of that's a CYA. That's a cover your ass statement. And for that, we're going to talk about the roofs in the area. First of all, I would like to point out that there was, as far as we know, no one on the highest point, which would have been the water tower. And if you go watch Mr. Guns and Gears video, I think he does a really good job. In the last live stream that I did, I had only watched a minute or two of his. I didn't get through the whole thing. He does talk about the water tower. You should go watch his video after, of course, we finish today's live stream. And as far as this live stream is concerned, guys, I fully expect this thing to be absolutely demonetized and hidden into obscurity. So everything you can do to help out the stream as far as sending it out, posting it places, and of course, like I said, it's going to be demonetized. So, you know, this, I don't expect to make anything from this. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not doing this to get paid. I don't expect to make a dime off of this because they're going to hide it, and they're probably going to take all the probably age restricted and all that sort of stuff, even though we're not going to be showing anything really nefarious today. So in my backdrop, let me look at my thing here. Okay, so what I have done is I pulled a bunch of photos into Photoshop here. And the ones that we're going to be really comparing are this one here, which is a perspective shot of one of the teams that was in place. And we know that this sniper team was in place in advance because if we were to... Is it this one? No. You can see them carrying their stuff up there pretty leisurely as far as positioning themselves. So they're using drag bags and they're carrying the tripods, which is pretty standard fare. This is standard equipment. This isn't out of the ordinary. In fact, I own a couple drag bags, kind of similar to those ones right there. Now they probably have much better shooting tripods than I do, but that's beside the point. So we know that they were in position in advance. So this was an in placement. This was done in advance of the whole event starting, right? So this is the final position of them, and that roof looks kind of slanted, right? Now, we have to give some leeway here a little bit for the visuals because this photo is not taken straight on, whereas we compare a really good shot of the roof where the assailant was taken out. This is pretty much what I would call a straight-on shot. I think that everybody could say that this is a pretty close to straight-on shot on the peak angle of the roof that we can get. So when we consider that this shot is at a little bit of an angle, I'm going to be extra conservative and say that this is taken at a 30-degree angle. I think it is considerably less than that, but we'll say that it's a 30-degree angle, just for the sake of our maths. Whenever you look at a triangle, or any angle arrangement for that matter, at perspective, there is a delineation in the data, particularly when you're using the camera sensors of today that don't actually take a snapshot, they take a scan. It either goes from top to bottom, bottom to top, or left to right, or right to left, one of the two, right? That's why you can take a picture of something like a glass and you get like that kind of like sort of fisheye effect on things where you can see things you wouldn't normally see if you were looking down. As an effective camera. That diminishes ever so slightly as we get farther away from the target. But anyway, this roof is at an angle. And if I were to, I just mocked this up on my counter really quick in the kitchenette over there. This is a shot of a triangle, a rather crappily made triangle, that is straight on. And you can sort of see that fisheye effect. You can see the inside of the thing in ways that you shouldn't be able to see the inside of the thing, but that's not part of the thing. If I were to turn this, keep the angle in your mind. If I were to turn this 30 degrees, that angle ends up looking a little bit steeper than it was before. So we'll go back to the other one. The angle looks perceptively steeper when you compare those two images, right? I think that everybody can agree. Well, that's governed by math. And if we're using 30 degrees, there's some roofing people. I can now see in the comments that there are some people, given that's a pitch. I don't know anything about roof pitches. So people are saying that's a 612 pitch, that's a 412 pitch. I don't know what any of that means. I'm assuming that's the rise over the run, right? But we're going to use actual math here today and angles. So we know that when we change the perspective of the triangle, that the roof appears slightly steeper than it is, and it's about 10% steeper is what you end up with, depending on your range. But at 30 degrees, it's going to appear 10% steeper. So we're going to give them 10% on our whatever calculations we do. So we're going to do this live. Let's get all these out. And let's start with this, which is the stated emplacement that is not too steep. Now, there's a couple things that we have to consider, and that is the person holding this camera may not have taken the picture nice and level, although humans are pretty good at finding level, at least pretty close to level when it comes to taking photographs. But we're gonna do it for real here. And how we're gonna do that is we're going to get into our Photoshop tool here, and we're gonna use the siding as plumb. So we'll take a nice long section of siding here. I need to make a new layer. Hang on. New layer. We're gonna be working in yellow here. And let me see the whole thing. So we're going to take a piece of siding, and we're going to take the piece of siding, and we're going to go from there, and we're going to draw a straight vertical line down that siding, and that is our vertical. And if we're honest, yeah, it looks like the roof, the photo looks like it might be twisted a little bit, so I'll buy that. That's going to be our vertical. We'll then duplicate this layer, and we'll take one of them, and we'll stick them right here. Right, just as a reference point. And then we're going to take this and we're just going to twist it. And we're going to line it up with that roof. We'll use this line right here, this darker line, which is the edge line. And let's see, that looks like it's lined up pretty darn close, and maybe ever so slightly off. We'll give it just a little bit more. I'm using this bumper and this bumper right here, the one in the center. And that brings us out to, you can see it up here. I know what that resolution looks like, but that's 76.5 degrees, right? And that's the angle of that roof. That means if we take this, the slope of that, remember a straight right angle is 90 degrees. So that means that angle of that roof is minus 76.5. It means that this is a 13.5 degree incline, right? So let's put 13.5 degrees. And that's acceptable. That's acceptable for a pre-established sniper position, right? So let's now go to the straight-on shot of the other roof. So let's get rid of this. Oh, not that photo. My bad. We're looking for, not that one. What do I do with my photos? Do they come in here and delete my, yeah, here we go. All right. Let's do the same thing. We're going to use the siding again on this thing. Let's put ourselves a new layer in here. Let's do the same thing. We're going to use this one right here. We'll get in there real tight so we can get it from top to bottom. Why is it? Oh, you know what? My layer's hidden. There we go. Top to bottom. Here. Down to here. There's our vertical. Let's go ahead and move that into the peak, roughly. Go ahead and duplicate this layer. And we'll get in here tight again. And we'll use, this is kind of washed. This top one is pretty washed out up against the sky. And when I'm looking at it, actually your guys' view looks a lot better than mine. But when I'm zoomed in there real tight, I can barely use that. So what we're going to use is we're going to use this darker line underneath here just to kind of line that thing up and do our measurements here. Again, I want to do this live so that you guys can see that I'm not fudging it any. As well as get commentary from people who actually know crap about roofs. Okay. That might be a little bit much over on this side now that I look at it. Okay. That's as close as I can get it. That says 85.2. So 90 degrees minus 85.2. 90 degrees minus 85.2 is 4.8 degrees. Fat fingered that. 4.8 degrees on the roof that is too steep and too unsafe to put a position. You guys see what I'm saying? Now, to the comments here. Again, I don't know enough about roof construction. I never worked roof construction or anything like that. Some people saying it was a 2 or 3 pitch roof. I don't know what that means. Somebody can convert what I have just done on these photos to what it means in actual roof terminology. But converting this data that we have photographic evidence of and using math, we can say that as far as angle is concerned, what did we say that the other roof was? Did we say it was... What did we say the other roof was? Somebody go back. Somebody go back and tell me what the other roof was. Somebody's called me a nerd. Yes, I am a nerd. And nerds rule the world. If you haven't figured that out already, we do. It's not the right one. Think of all the people that find themselves in position of power. 13.5 degrees is what the previous one was. So according to that, 13.8 divided by, or excuse me, 13.5 divided by 4.8 is roughly 3 times as steep. The angle is roughly 3 times steeper on the pre-established position than the roof that was too steep to put people on because it was a safety hazard. I'm sorry. That is complete and utter bullshit. I know that you guys can see this from the photos that the emplacement was steeper. But if we go, and I'm going to have to do some, I wasn't intending to do this, but we're going to go to to another screen here. And where's the, help me out, boys and girls, where's the button for satellite view? I'm not, is it down here? Charles. Let Charles be mad that he was a jock. Somebody's saying to moderate the chat, Charles is out of control. Let Charles be mad that he's a jock. And he, although I did sports too. Anyway, somebody tell me where the control is for the satellite view. God, I should have done this. I should have set this up beforehand. Yeah, where's it at? Yeah, I know that the button's called terrain, but where's it located? Whatever. We'll just use it like this. I think I can find myself. No, I really can't find myself a way. God damn it. We're just gonna use my phone really quick. We'll just get out of this and I'll put it into I'll just put it in Photoshop. I know how to do it on my phone. I don't know how to do it on the desktop. It shows you. Okay, I get the right frame here. Okay, that should be. Let's see. I'm on a slight delay as well, so your guys' audio sounds like I'm in a what? Let's go. Here we go. Just drag this in here. There we go. We don't need that yellow line in there. Okay. So this is approximately where the, let me make sure that you guys can see this. Yep. Okay. Let's get our orientation right here for everybody. Okay. So, new layer. This is approximately where the stage was, right here. This is where the shot came from, where they were supposed to, supposedly, let's change colors. Oh no, hang on a second. We can't use red. Can't use red. This is where the shooter came from. Got to use blue for that because that's proper color coding. And then if we go to this is where that sniper team that we were just talking about was. So my question is, the highest point around here is why the hell is there not somebody on top of that water tower right there? Right? So even if you're saying, oh, well, this was a safety hazard, even though we have somebody on a much steeper roof over here, right? That's 3 times as steep. If you look at this, now, again, I don't know the SOP for the Secret Service. But we know that this guy's got, we'll say, 60-degree cone of fire because it's pretty standard, right? 60-degree cone of fire. He's covering this direction, right? That means that somebody has got to cover the opposite direction where is the dude that's supposed to cover the opposite direction located? I don't see it. The only other plausible would be is if there's somebody over here on these roofs that we don't see. I don't know. But supposedly the SOP is 3 teams of 2. So where are the other ones? We know that there's at least one other sniper team because you can hear it in the audio. If you listen to my video from a couple days ago where we talk about the outgoing fire versus the incoming fire, there are 3 distinct sound patterns. There's the outgoing shots, and there are 8 of them from the assailant. 8 of them. If you can also hear an incoming shot, which we know pretty much was at that point in time. We know that it came from this position. You know that it's an incoming shot because you can hear the supersonic crack come in before you hear the shot. Okay? The audio in that video is being recorded from this position roughly. Or no, excuse me, that's wrong. It's being recorded. No, yeah. Roughly this position is where that audio is being recorded. So you hear the supersonic crack, and then you hear the report of the rifle shortly thereafter, right? So it came from this position. The other shot, the other follow-up shot that you hear came from a different position. And you can tell that because the sound signature is completely different. The sound comes almost at the same time from the gunshot as opposed to the supersonic crack. And we're assuming that you're using the same kind of rifles. I'm assuming it's a 308 or something like that, which means that has to come. There's only a couple ways that can happen. And that means that the angle at which the shot came from, the second follow-up shot came from, was roughly the same distance from the shooter as the source, right? So that means that over in here is another sniper position. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure out what position that would be in because there's not a perceptible delay. It's pretty darn close. So somebody over here, there was another sniper over here somewhere that took the second shot. We don't have video of the assailant at that time, but you can tell by the sound signature that they arrive roughly at the same time, and there's no perceptible delay between the supersonic crack and the report of the rifle. So that means that there's another somebody over here that's got some kind of angle that's probably wrong because it would have to include the roof. So this roof is covered somewhere over here, but he's got to be somewhere where he couldn't have directly observed this position because they would have had the shot. The other position that I thought was pretty good for a sniper to be, as someone who's never placed snipers or anything, but this position over here would likely be a good spot, which would be a reason why this guy over here didn't see it. So this over here, if you guys are unfamiliar with that, this is where the actual animals are shown for the farm shows. This is a covered kind of metal roof covered structure that keeps the animals and the people out of the sun. If we've got a sniper team here that we know is pointed in this direction, then another comparable one might be a team that's looking the opposite direction. You see what I'm saying? So it's reasonable to believe that this guy would not have had eyes on this roof whatsoever because he'd be sectors of fire. He'd be looking in the opposite direction, right? Which means, given the slope of that roof, I can't zoom in on this photo anymore because it's because I took it on my cell phone. That given the angle of the roof, although he could be on this one. Actually, it would make more sense for him to be on this one because of the slope of the roof. Now that I look at it, this would make more sense, right? So you got to have a third one somewhere. Like there's got to be a third team somewhere. And I'm saying that third team is looking in from this direction somewhere. It's the only thing that makes sense to cover all of those. But anyway, let's go to the chat. Ladders. Okay, so you've seen some pictures of the ladders. There are at least 2 confirmed ladders. Okay. The first ladder, the ladder that everybody is focused in on, is the ladder that's in the alcove behind the trees. Everybody's pointing at that ladder. That is not the ladder that was used, because everybody's like, how on earth did they put a ladder there in front of all these people? That's not the picture. You got to look at the other pictures in the area. There's another ladder on the backside of the facility. That ladder there was already there because it has now come out that there was supposed to be somebody on that roof. It was supposed to be, quote unquote, a local person that was on that roof. Whether you buy that or not, that's for time to tell. I want to know. I mean, I think that everybody should ask the question of who was that person? Not to get conspiratorial on you, but where is that person? Who are they? And is his or her name somebody named Nobody who lives at 123 doesn't exist? That's the question that I think definitively needs to be answered. And if that person does exist, where were they at this point in time? Why weren't they on the roof? So the ladder thing, I think there's a lot to be made out of the placement of the ladder. That ladder was placed there supposedly by the police team. That was the police access ladder because there were supposed to be people on top of that roof. Now, back to our original discussion, the roof being too steep to put Secret Service agents on when we already have Secret Service agents on top of a steeper roof is complete and utter bullshit to me. Now, you can ascribe nefarious intent to that if you want. I would, again, take the conservative position of that's a CYA statement by the director of the Secret Service, because her most recent job was as mall cop before she had the directorship of the Secret Service. Chat says the other team was to the left of the 2 buildings from the first team. Okay, I can, like I said, I can buy that. And I assume that if we go back to our diagram here, again, I'm operating on no information. I'm just saying that we know that we have imagery of this. It's prolific imagery. We can tell what direction they're facing. We know that they had to be able to take the shot, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they have started maybe pointing in this direction more and then had to change their sector of fire maybe. But somebody says that the second team was located on the roof to the left, right? So that means one of these 2 buildings, and I would assume, again, that they would either be facing the opposite direction, right, to cover the other 180 degrees, or they would be facing either this way or this way, right? Something like that. But again, the entire concept that we've got one team here and nobody up here at the highest position in the entire place that can see absolutely everything, that has the ability to walk around, even if you just put a camera up there, that would have detected everything that we're talking about here. So again, I think there's going to be a lot of answering to be done once this inevitably ends up before Congress. But at minimum, somebody didn't do their job right. Okay. You can say whatever you want about the intent of not doing that job. And I saw a really good quote the other day, and it's don't assign nefarious intent where incompetence will do. We all know that the government is the worst at doing whatever it is. I think that this is on prime display here. And I do believe, sincerely, that if the director of the Secret Service says that the buck stops with her, then this was a serious failure on her part, and then she should definitely resign. Regardless of who was impacted by this, I think that there's definitely loss of life, major security, the biggest security blunder since the JFK assassination. You should no longer be in that job. Find somewhere else to be. And that would be the principled thing to do, but I doubt that that particular person has principles of any shape, manner, or form other than personal enrichment and advancement. Let's go to the chat for a second. Okay. The other thing that I think we could say that I didn't mention is, okay, let's buy, even though we've already shown that the the roof was not too sloped to put a sniper team on. And it looked to me like from the wide pictures that the other roofs in the immediate vicinity were roughly about the same. They may not be quite as bad as the roof that they were on. But I have done jobs on roofs before. I'm not a roof worker, like I don't do that for a living, but I have assisted on roof jobs before. And I have been on metal roofs that are pretty slippery. In fact, the roof of this building is metal, and it's pretty slippery. Put a fucking scaffold up. They're dirt cheap, and you could have gone to Home Depot. We know there's a Home Depot in the vicinity, and rented one. You're telling me the Secret Service can't afford to go buy some scaffolding? Well, I mean, it's apparent that they either didn't think that they needed it on the steepest roof that they went to, or that they couldn't afford it. They didn't put it in the budget or whatever. I think that's complete and utter bullcrap, but there are only a few excuses that you can come up with for not having certain roofs secured. Because if I was going to pick places, right? If I was going to pick places to put, again, let's put a mark here for the stage. There's the stage. If I was going to pick places to put, the first place I would pick would be that water tower right there. Highest point. Highest point, can see everything. It also, typically those water towers have a service rail around them, so you can literally move 360 degrees and change your direction, your sector at will, right? The second place, the second highest position is right there. Be that what it is. And then I would probably also pick, I think that the spot that they put a team right here is a good spot. I do, but it is not quite as tall as these buildings over here, right? These ones. Now, again, this one is facing the wrong direction, right? It's sloped away from away. So I feel like if you're looking at it, it would be sloped like this, right? So the only one that really makes sense to have a sniper team on, because if you're laying with the direction of the roof, then you'd be pointing down, right? You wouldn't be able to elevate your rifle properly. So if you were a sniper team, you would probably be in this one over here, right? So that's a pretty good spot. These buildings are very low. These are single-story buildings over here. I've looked at them on the road view. Another really good position actually was this one that I thought. Now, of course, I don't know, based on the bleachers, there was like a set of bleachers that was erected here, and one here. And there might have been a problem with these buildings being a good spot with these bleachers here. So I'm there's stuff here that we can't see from the satellite view that may have impeded that sort of activity. Just kind of throwing that out there. So, why, instead of number 1 position, number 2 position, number 3 position, and I'm going to say this 3B over here because that's a pretty good spot as well. Like I would say that this spot and that spot are roughly equivalent because of their height. Now, I think also, if you look at the perspective of this building here, what this building gives you that these don't have, which is some people are saying that the position was here and position was here. If you're looking like this, these are all tall trees, right? So this position gives you a look inside of this neighborhood, and you know, most of these buildings are single story, maybe second story homes in some instances, but this is a residential neighborhood, right? So if you're looking out this direction, you're blocked by this huge tree immediately and then this one right behind, versus like this one has a more oblique view. You got lines of sight through the trees from this position up here. But definitely, you know, I wasn't there. I can't give you a definitive look of what that looked like from on top of this building with the trees in the way. But I don't think that this position here, I don't think that this position here, wrong one. This position here, from this position here, is a superior position looking into this neighborhood over here. And this is pretty flat as well. This is, if you look at the street view, this is flat plains of Pennsylvania type stuff over here. Not a whole lot of topography there. The best shooting position from over here, if you were a bad guy, is from a tree. So I don't think that this position, just from looking at the satellite, is superior to this one. But what this one does give you is a look into this position over here, all of this stuff that basically has nothing between it and the stage. Again, stage here, because this giant lake is here. There's not a whole lot. Again, single story, and then some of these are 2-story, some of these are single story. They look to me like storage buildings. But the street view isn't super detailed on them. So what I would say is, this position is far superior to watching this direction than this one is, because there's just a whole bunch of occlusion here. So I would almost guess that this position was not looking this way. I would say that it is almost certainly looking sort of like this, which would give them an excuse for not being able to see what's going on over here, especially because, as far as I can tell, this building is taller than that one. Sorry for all the green. Let's go back to the chat. The question is, how did you get the rifle in? It was, as far as we've seen reported, I can't confirm this, I don't have any pictures or any of that sort of stuff. Apparently, this is outside the security access. Somehow, this building is outside of the security access. I don't know where the security access was, but somehow this is outside of it. Now, to be fair, if you look at this doesn't have a fence around it. This is a main road. So it's entirely possible that he just walked in off the street. But as far as we can tell from the reports, he had it in a rifle case, some kind of bag. Now, he may have it broken in half. We all have ARs here. We all know that those guns can be broken in half and stuffed into a sizable backpack. You can't just put them in a tiny little backpack. You need as far as I can tell from the imagery, it's a full-sized rifle. It's not a short-barreled rifle or anything like that. So all indicators are that he would have needed a real backpack to carry that in. So questions about drones in the chat. there was a drone. As far as I am reported, there was one drone at 500 feet. I have operated drones at that height before, under the direction of somebody else. Say that since we're doing this live. Under the direction of somebody else. They had me, I've seen the view of a 500-foot view off of a trashy commercial grade drone. The law enforcement stuff is way better. I'm just telling you that. I know that from an insider who used to work in drone tech as it pertains to law enforcement. They got some really nice tech. I would almost guarantee that this dirtbag was picked up on the drone first. Somebody asked where the car was found on this map. I don't know where his car was. I'm not sure where that was. I also haven't seen any details about the supposed explosive device that he has. That would answer a whole lot of questions. So, okay. Somebody called me a nerd earlier in the chat. And I am a nerd. I am a super nerd. Okay. I was a chemist. I was educated as a chemist. I have a bachelor's degree in biological sciences and chemistry. I worked as a chemist for 5 years out of school. If the device, the explosive device, is a homemade thing with like black powder or smokeless powder or something like that, all right, I'll buy it. But we know that it isn't a binary product because those things have to be set off with velocity, right? So we know that that's not it. I can make, in my brain, with the proper materials, I could make certain compounds that could do this. Again, with that education and experience, I can probably do that. Acquiring the materials, however, to do that is nearly impossible in today's day and age. It is nearly impossible to just go on the internet and purchase those materials. Several of them are heavily regulated. I won't name them here, but one of the more benign ones that you might find in general laboratory settings is nitric acid, for instance. Is used in a lot of stuff. You cannot buy nitric acid, at least not in the concentrations that you need to get it done. You might be able to buy some dilute stuff on eBay or whatever, but I'll just tell you right now that it is almost impossible to buy that. And if you were to buy it, heads up, you go on a list, right? Just saying. There are lots of other stuff, there are lots of other species that go into that sort of stuff that you just simply cannot buy. You have to have a license to be able to buy them. You have to have an accreditation from somewhere to be able to buy them. The idea that if this is some kind of plastic, that this 20-year-old shitbag was able to just whip it up in his garage, regardless of how big of a nerd he is or an outcast he is or, whatever it is, he got a math award or whatever. You have to have the raw materials. You have to have access to the raw materials. I find that, again, if that's what it is, it's complete and utter bullshit. He had assistance from somewhere. I'm just going to lay that out. You can describe whatever you want to that assistance, whether that was, he had another project going on somewhere else and he had some, faculty help at because an educational institution would have access to some of those things. I'm trying to be careful about the words that I use because I know that I guarantee you this thing this live stream is being heavily monitored right now. Almost impossible for him to make that by himself. We'll just put it right like that. So somebody asked where you got the rifle. I was pretty sure that we answered this at least 5 or 6 times. This is stolen from his father. As far as we can tell, through the tracing, which I have my own questions about the tracing, serious questions about the tracing. So reportedly, this firearm was purchased in 2013 by his father, and this shitbag stole it from him to perpetrate the act. Now, I am going to give you a scenario. I'll give you the facts here for a second. 30 minutes. Within 30 minutes, they had traced the firearm. Okay? 30 minutes, they traced the firearm. Braden Langley over at Langley Outdoors did a great piece on this. I think this morning it was. Go watch that piece where they talk about he puts together what Debunked said to Congress about how they do the tracing and all that sort of stuff. And then what CNN said, how long it took and all that sort of stuff, right? But the long and the short of it is they can't have a searchable registry. The ATF is not allowed to have a searchable registry. It's mandated by Congress. And Debunked even said that they have a contract with Adobe to remove the search function from Adobe products that they use. They have to pay extra for neutered Adobe Reader to be able to, be in compliance, right? You're telling me that they went through 1 billion records where they've already said they've got like a container, like a shipping container full of out-of-business records. They obtained that record of that sale from 2013. Remember, it's 2024. Somebody help me do the math. My public education math says that that's 11 years ago. You're telling me you went through 1 billion records and somewhere in 2013 you found the record of sale off of the serial number recovered from the weapon at the scene in 30 minutes? So, that sounds suspicious to me. It sounds like they've got something other than some actuary going through there and going page by page. The only plausible explanation for this is that they were contacted by the family of the dirtbag and said that they had sold, or that it was their weapon, and that weapon was of such and such make, and it was from purchased from such and such such and such gun store that is now out of business. They then go to the shipping container. They find the out of business records for that business. They then sift through the hundreds, probably of, if not thousands, of out of business records from that business to find that serial number. That still seems like a stretch to do in 30 minutes to me. A serious stretch. I don't know about you. What do you guys think? Do you think that you were a superstar paper pusher and you could have found that record in 30 minutes? I don't think so. So I want to see a major investigation into how that record was able to be obtained in such a rapid fashion. I think that there might be some lying going on about whether or not they have a searchable database or not. Questions about the DNA, how they had his DNA. That's okay. Look, DNA confirmation, because if you're sensitive, don't look up the pictures. You can see why they had trouble identifying him. You could extract DNA from the family members to determine And it is stated that the family members cooperated, so it's reasonable that the father could have given, a DNA sample and they matched it, et cetera, et cetera. But it is reported that before the incident occurred, that they reported that I can't say that live. I was going to say the moniker that everybody has been given this dirtbag, but assailant made off with a whole bunch of guns, basically. And it was reported hours in advance that these guns were missing and that the dude was missing, et cetera, et cetera. You only do that if you have an inkling. You don't report your 20-year-old adult son missing unless you're concerned that something weird has happened, right? Particularly when you find that there's several guns missing from the house. Okay. It's odd. So, the idea that they recovered his DNA and were able to run it so quickly, there is at least a plausible pathway for that to occur. They might we don't know anything about the criminal history of the parents. They could have also already been in the system, right? So we don't know. Supposedly, this person was not in the system, but as I mentioned in a previous video, there is evidence that he has been previously arrested, but he was never booked on anything. But some of those sources are somewhat questionable up to this point. So I said what I said in my original video, and I'm going to hold that until I see the actual source of the information be unveiled. And for that, we need the Discord records that have not yet been released. We have not seen the release of the Discord records, and I find it highly suspect that, again, all of the social media has been removed. This is a common thing. They always remove the social media, and that's presumably to mine the data that they want us to see and none of the data that they don't want us to see. So, unfortunately, we don't have the caches of this data. Hopefully, somebody with some good computer skills can go get that for us. But as of right now, until I see the actual Discord records, I'm going to stand by my original statements. Let's see. Back to the chat. And then we've got almost 1,000 people in here. I would really like to hit 1,000 people on this live stream. That would be great. Somebody says the audio's out. What do you mean the audio's out? Testing. What do you mean the audio's out? This seems to be working fine to me. Have I been talking for, 40 minutes now and 57 minutes and the audio hasn't been working the whole time? That doesn't sound right. Somebody confirm that while I read through the chat here. Audio's fine. Okay, cool. Thank you. I don't know what to say about that. I'm sorry. I try my best to give you guys the best experience that I can. I've got a freaking DSLR over there. I've got a microphone. I got a freaking switchboard. You know, you can. Oh no! What did I do? Oh no! What did I do? All right. Looks like that's gone. Yeah, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. I need to reprogram those. But anyway, again, I wanted to do today's live stream because I wanted to make sure that I did this live so you guys could see that this isn't some like fancy editing where I did it and like didn't quite get it. Didn't quite get the thing right. So I just wanted to show that the roof was not too steep. That had to be at least at its minimum a CYA, maybe more. We also have the information that there were supposed to be local people there. We need to know who those local people were, right? And I just think that as far as my outside looking in, there must have been some other factors that need to be explained before Congress, in my opinion, as to why the two most suitable positions for teams that would be providing protective overwatch for an event like this, neither of those two positions had people on top of them. And that's what I would say. Oh, the last thing I want to say, you know what? No, we're just going to close it off there because I can see the whole straw purchase thing going in there. Dad didn't commit a straw purchase. As far as we can tell, the rifle was purchased in 2013. 2013 would have been, again, 11 years ago. If the dude was 20, that means the kid was 10 or 11 or no. It means the 9 at the time, right? Wasn't a straw purchase. Rifle was purchased in 2013. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sure that this will be buried after it turns into a VOD. Send it out to people who need to see it to debunk the whole thing about the roof being too slippery and too dangerous because it was a big bad angle, even though it was fucking dry outside that day. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see another one here at the VSO Gun Channel. Regularly scheduled programming returning tomorrow, provided nothing crazy happens the rest of the day.